Welcome to the Heads Together podcast. Thank you so much for joining me again this week. You know how much it means to me. I'm so grateful. Or if this is the first time you found me, thanks for being here. And I hope you enjoy this episode. I think you will. It's going to be a goodie. So some of you will remember that I have had Rebecca Gunter on my podcast a few times. She is one of my absolute business besties. She's been there since the beginning of the podcast. She was, in fact, someone really instrumental in me getting this podcast off the ground. She gave me so much confidence. She helped me with my positioning and my messaging, and she has been just such a cheerleader and supporter for me. She's really pretty incredible. She's the founder and CEO of Stoned Fruit, which is an incredible copywriting agency, but so much more than that. Stone Fruit is where you go when you need positioning and messaging that really, really converts. I have to share this with you because I bloody love this. She describes herself as a brand chiropractor, marketing mixologist, and creative copywriter that gets positioning and messaging strategy to line up with words that work. Ew. I just love it. I could keep reading. I just read that from her LinkedIn profile. And honestly, I could literally keep reading snippets of that to you because she is so great with this kind of thing. It's actually one of the services she offers is writing people's LinkedIn profiles. And honestly, I just know when someone has had the gold dust that is Rebecca Gunter sprinkled over their LinkedIn. It is phenomenal. She's just the best. It's amazing. Rebecca actually did a lot of work with me when I was birthing this podcast around messaging and positioning. And you know what? A real testament to her and the depth of her work is that a lot of the messaging that I still use now and a lot of the words I use, I often look at my website now and I know that still some of the words go back to when we first worked together. And so, you know, this is really copy with longevity because it's brand deep, you know, it's really clever stuff. And aside from that, Rebecca really is one of my business and life besties. And so I am thrilled to have her back on the show again with me today. Today we're talking about something different. We're not talking about copy and we're not talking about brand, the topics that we normally talk about together. We are talking about AI. And Rebecca has some really strong opinions around this. You might not expect what she has to say about this as a copywriter. So I'm very excited to jump into this episode and share with you Rebecca's thought leadership around this because it is strong and powerful and I love it. Let's go. Welcome to the Heads Together podcast. I'm Jill Mokes and I am obsessed with cutting through the noise when it comes to growing your business. Each week, via intimate coaching conversations and inspirational stories, I share what it really takes to get the results you want in a way that feels right to you. I am all about attracting higher ticket opportunities, building authentic relationships, and creating the abundant, full-fat version of your dream business. I mean, how many of us have beavered away creating a light version of what we really want? The thing is, I honestly believe when you're outstanding at what you do, there is no limit to what you can achieve. So, are you ready to put our heads together and make it happen? Let's go. Rebecca Gunter, welcome back to the Heads Together podcast.
Oh, it's been so long, Jilly. It's been so long since I've graced the microphone with you.
Way too long. Our episodes are so fun. I'm going to link back to all the ones we've done before as well so that everyone can get a little taster of our poddy journey.
You'll hear Jilly in the very early days of her Heads Together hosting journey and how far she's grown.
Exactly. I mean, you were so instrumental in me doing this podcast because do you remember, I would say to you all the time, well, I want to do it, but it just feels like such a lot, such a big lift. And I remember you saying, just speak into the microphone. It's not a big lift. Just talk into the microphone. You could do that. I was like, yeah, that's a very fair comment.
It is a big lift.
It is a big lift. And I do say that to people now, that you can just talk into the microphone. And of course, you were just joking with me around that, because we both know it is a lift. But also, I think some people do make it more complicated than it needs to be. But yeah, you need a bit of support, I think.
I think people get intimidated by the lift. What they're really saying is, I don't know how to host, what to say. So the lift is more, I think, anxiety over just producing content, but it makes more sense to blame it on the logistics. Like, oh, well, I'll need an editor and we can put it out every week and I've got work to do. Like, there's just all these reasons to not, and it's just stage fright, which you can overcome. Look, it's not to say it's easy to overcome stage fright, but truly it's exposure. You just do it over and over again. So I think it's fun for people to go back and listen to the early days of Heads Together with our host, Jill Moakes.
Yeah, I don't feel embarrassed going back and listening to those. I kind of enjoy going back and just, because I can see that I have evolved since I started doing them. But at the same time, it's not that different. I guess I've always just shown up and been pretty much me. So it don't sound too different. And that's quite a relief, really. If I was going back and listening and it was just making me cringe.
You've always been a natural. You can just open up and the brilliance comes forth. And so podcast listeners, you're in for another treat.
Well, like I say, thank you so much for coming back. People, if you remember Rebecca coming on previous episodes, and you might know her from her own show, The Stone Fruit Roll-Up, but Rebecca is really my business bestie, and we have been in this together for a long time now. We have shared lots of highs and lows together of business building journey on both sides. Times when I've been high as a kite and loving life and Rebecca hasn't. And then times when Rebecca has been soaring and I've been like, no, this is too hard. And the good thing is, like any really great friendship, we just want the best of everything for each other. You know, and I just want to say how much I appreciate you being in my life. God, I'm almost sounding American. I've been talking to you for so long. I want to appreciate you so much.
Oh, it's so good when you do this American accent. Mm-hmm. I wish you do the whole episode in this.
Only if you do a whole episode doing my accent. If you may have heard Rebecca doing her impression of me before. It's really horrendous. Give us a glimpse.
It's literally the worst, darling.
Terrible.
It is just a mockery of your fine English, the Queen's English.
It's literally
English.
A mockery for the entire of my countrywomen.
I would say a distillation of maybe every terrible English accent I've ever heard anyone try and do. And then also my attempt to sound pretty much like every voice on Absolutely Fabulous melded into one.
That
algorithm.
You are obsessed with. Rebecca is obsessed with AbFab, everyone. You know, if you're of the generation that still calls it that. AbFab.
What do other people call it?
I don't know. I don't know if everyone still abbreviates it like that.
I'm really dating myself. How long has it been since that's been?
Oh God, it was the
TV?
90s, wasn't it? Early 90s. Early 90s. Yeah.
So
we're dating ourselves.
Funny.
Very, very funny.
I get it, yeah. And then there was that time where this character did this.
We do that all the time, don't we? We quite often will both recite paragraphs from Absolutely Fabulous scripts to each other.
It's just how we relate. We don't even talk in real language anymore. It's a cut scene after cut scene. It's a meme. It's a living meme.
Oh my God, we are living memes across the pond.
I know.
I love it.
I'm living for me and also for meme.
I just want to share with people that what was hardest about having you back on the show this time was picking which topic I would really love us to get into. Because I've got to be honest, there are so many things that I love talking about with you. But one has really risen its head, and it's really down to a conversation, isn't it, that we were having the other day. And that is around ChatGPT. And just to set the stage a little bit for my listeners, our listeners, and that is that Rebecca's origin story is in writing. She's a writer. She is an incredible copywriter. She's an incredible writer of all kinds. She is a brand strategist in terms of positioning and in terms of really helping her clients present what they do to the world that is in the most compelling way they could possibly ever get it across. And as you must know, the rise of ChatGPT caused havoc in the copywriting arena, as in, oh my God, copywriters aren't going to be needed anymore. And now that ChatGPT's on the scene, we can all just do our own copy and that's it. We've got it wrapped. We don't need help with that anymore. So there was a lot of fear in that arena. The reason I wanted Rebecca to come on today is because you have a really different take on this, and you have embraced this technology, but also you see it for what it is and use it accordingly. And I just wanted to share a conversation about this topic with my listeners, because I think there are lots of people listening who don't really understand how they can use ChatGPT without it giving them that panicky feeling of everyone's going to know I'm just using ChatGPT and now I hate myself. So I think this is really relevant to the coaches who are listening today, because as coaches, trust is everything. There's nothing more important than trust for us when it comes to getting clients. I'd love to hand over to you a little bit just to maybe start wherever you think is good to start in unpicking this a bit for us.
I think you got to the core of it when you said there's fear. The reactive experience in the zeitgeist around large language models and artificial intelligence, and ChatGPT is a brand of that. We could also be talking about Claude or any other platforms that are emerging. The idea that using a technology like ChatGPT is cheating, or it's lazy, or you're feeding your audience fast food and it's a disservice to them that they're forced to consume this like soylent green regurgitation of humanity packaged in this sterile, unhuman way that is just this kind of crime against humanity.
What a brilliant metaphor.
I mean, it truly is kind of Soylent Green if you think about how it is, recycled people talk. However, that fear, I think, is, driving a lot of negative emotions around around many, many aspects of life, but particularly around business. And I noticed that there are two types of people in the world when it comes to ChatGPT. Those who hide it and those who act like they're embarrassed to use it. I'll talk to someone across the Zoom screen and I can always tell it's coming because their shoulders sink and they get low and their body shrinks and they go, well, honestly, asked ChatGPT what to do. Like as if it's something to be utterly embarrassed and ashamed of, as if you have some sort of cheat code. And I ask us, why does learning have to be hard in order to be valid? Why does writing have to be born of the Sisyphean boulder pushed up a hill in order for anyone to see value in it? That is a mindset, a fear, a scarcity experience that, honestly is kind of by design. Thank you, capitalism. But like unwinding that is one of the keys to using that tool, because that's really what it is, y'all. It's a tool effectively I just kind of push back that every output of it is bullshit, fast food, non-nutritious, harmful, poisonous drivel that somehow we're forcing our consumers to read.
Yeah, and I think if you use it in a lazy way, that's what you're going to get out. Absolutely. You are. If you're going to give it the most generic of prompts, you're probably going to get something pretty processed food-like out of it. But if you're going to take the time to build a really great recipe and take the time to use it properly, it can be so helpful.
Well, let's talk about how that actually happens. But before we do, I have a story. When my dad was at the end of his teaching career, and he spent his entire teaching career in two camps, either teaching English as a second language, mostly to Laotian immigrants who had come as a result of the Vietnam conflict. So had moved a large concentration of Laotian population to Oregon, and those were mostly his students. And then as technology started to emerge for the classroom, he transitioned into what is a pretty common role today, but was very uncommon at the time, was the technology guy for teachers. Set you up with your, desktop, get technology in the classroom. Like, he was the one guy for the entire school district. And my dad was rather much a visionary in this area and had done a keynote presentation at an education conference in like 1985, maybe somewhere between 85 and 88. And he was booed and laughed off the stage as the keynote. You and I both do a lot of, speaking, so you can really imagine what it would be like to present your idea to a bunch of teachers who you absolutely, like, those are your people, who laugh you off the stage. Here was the premise. The premise was about word processors, and he was booed off the stage with the resounding, "We don't process words." That is the argument we're having today, that we don't use blank to process words. And so I think about that all the time, about how my dad's kind of been booed off the stage here in a metaphysical sense for suggesting that we use a computer to write. And that's what this is, using a computer to write. So put yourself in a time machine, young folks, back to before AbFab was even a thing. And imagine that teachers were horrified at the idea of processing words. And so here we are, processing words. Now, I got a marketing email the other day from a colleague who I absolutely adored, and this was painfully extracted from ChatGPT. The content was painfully extracted. The body paragraph was the same for two articles. The signature tells were there, the emojis, the M dash, the it's not this, it's that kind of signature tell. But I want to just keep our audience as much as possible away from the conversation of gotcha moments for ChatGPT, because gotcha moments are reflexive of that fear. We don't process words. We don't send marketing emails we didn't write ourselves. We don't do blank because of blank. And the world is changing way too fast for that attitude. If you want to not wake up 5 years from now and be like, what the fuck actually happened? I have no idea. Well, what actually happened is that the technology is moving at a speed we cannot fathom. In fact, I'll give you another timeline thing to ground the conversation, and then I swear to God, I'll relinquish the mic. We have a social revolution in the history of man, like in the history of man and womankind as human beings as we know it. A social revolution is a catastrophic change within our timeline. Don't think about it linearly, but I'm doing it that way, within our timeline, that changes literally everything about how we do it. The first one was the Green Revolution. That was agriculture. And then it took, look, I don't know. I mean, anthropologists tell me what the time span is. I really could not identify, but between the Green Revolution of agriculture and industrial, I mean, that was just like, what? Fascinating. I don't even know. From industrial, then the information age. We in our lifetime did not see the Industrial Revolution, but even just a scant studying of history showed us how it changed literally everything about our lives. So then comes the information. That's our third social revolution. It's my opinion that our fourth social revolution is AI, and we are seeing two in one lifetime. Then the breakneck disconnect for the human brain to experience two, whatever the word for catastrophic that isn't bad, but transformational moments in our lifetime. No wonder we're confused.
That is such an insightful point. And I've never thought about that, but you're absolutely bloody right. We have come into this age of information in our lifetime, and we are now entering the next phase, which is AI. I think you're absolutely bang on. So firstly, as you say, no wonder we're confused. Secondly, how do we get okay with this? How do we get okay with it to the point where we take out all of this wrongness that we make about it? And I think there's a deeper point here is, do we want to be okay with it? Is a question I think we have to ask ourselves. We don't have to be okay with anything. It will evolve and it will keep going and it will keep getting more and more impactful on the way we do life and business. If we resolutely say, I'm not okay with this and I don't like it, so I don't want to be involved with it, what are the repercussions of that for people who take that stance?
In the world of capitalism, you're gonna be broke. That's the repercussion, in my opinion, because the technology is impacting every single aspect of your life that you will experience. In 5 years, this reality will seem like a distant fever dream.
Archaic.
To how life will be impactful. But I think the real question is, how do you be okay with it or not okay with it, is around a paradigm shift and perspective. Let's unpack the fear a little bit. What are we afraid of? We're afraid of being replaced by AI professionally. That is an economic insecurity that has way more to do with the way that, I keep bashing capitalism on this podcast today, but because they're so linked to capitalism that you really can't extract the two. The fear is, how am I going to feed myself? How am I going to feed my kids? How can I afford a house? How can I afford a car? How can I do anything if AI replaces my job? So unpacking the fear of it is really about economics. And the paradigm shift, I think, has to come from how we frame the conversation. So in America, one thing we talk about constantly right now is the high cost of everything. Eggs, oh my God, eggs are $12 a dozen. Everything's a rent is so expensive. I'll never be able to afford it. Look, cars are going up 30% because of the tariffs. It's constant conversation about how expensive everything is. And barely a whisper about low wages. Barely a whisper. So if the expense of everything has gone up exponentially and wages have stagnated, everything feels really expensive. But instead of saying, hey, we really need to reinvestigate how we get paid and what we get paid and what is a minimum viable income and how can we actually have more resources where $12 eggs are kind of irrelevant. But we're so fixated on what we can't get and how it's going to impact us and how we're going to starve and how we're in this moment that we never even look to the power dynamics very strongly and say, we all need to get paid more here, not be able to have cheaper eggs. And so to me, the AI conversation is very similar. Let's stop freaking out about how it's going to take our jobs and let's start thinking about how we can use it to kind of empower our life. And that leads us to one more fear, which I think is the kind of the whole thing that binds it together, is that we really don't trust corporations to do right by us. And so AI is terrifying because we have no trust at all that the people who are creating it have any sort of moral guardrails, that there's no AI constitution, which my old colleague Rob Greenlee always called for. And I was like, yes, an AI constitution, an agreement of how we're going to use it, not something that's out here to just extract as much wealth as possible and leave people destitute. That's the fear we're living in around AI. So how do we live with it isn't the questions, like how are eggs so expensive? Let's flip that and be like, why don't we make enough money where $12 eggs doesn't feel like the end of the world? And how do we use AI where we don't feel like the corporations are stealing the artist's work, are stealing our future jobs, are stealing our ability to communicate with our clients, are stealing like all the things that are baked in that fear conversation? So how do we overcome it? Really unpack what the fear is.
I would add to that fear bundle as well. And I think this is aligned to what you're saying, but it's even more fundamental. I think we fear lack of control, and we don't feel like we have any control over ChatGPT over AI in general. Shouldn't keep saying ChatGPT. It's a bit mean.
I know. It's just what it's what I'm personally using.
Yeah, exactly. And that fear of lack of control, if we don't control something, then we don't know what the outcome is going to be. So if we don't control something, we don't know if our own content is going to get copied. We don't know if we're going to be accused of copying someone else's stuff. We don't know if it's going to impact on how we serve our clients. It's all of it is around a lack of control or perceived loss of control, I think. And that's scary for people.
It is, but I would encourage us all to break that veneer because control is an illusion.
Yes.
In fact, the more you hold on to it, the less you can grow. Perfectionism is a tool of fear, and the need to control is perfectionism, because the anxiety that comes when you don't have a known quantity, can't predict the outcome, can't do this, can't do that, that's fear. And fear and innovation do not coexist. They are mutually exclusive. The brain cannot process change, new ideas, and innovation when it is in fear mode. And so in order to break out of that, we have to stop thinking that control is the goal.
Oh.
There's your quote for the show.
Stop thinking that control is the goal. Loving it.
Particular for your audience, entrepreneurialism is thriving without guaranteed outcomes. You look, pre-pandemic, I would have said, well, show me an aspect of life where you don't do blah, blah, blah and get a predictable result. Like you show up, you do your job, you are kind to your coworkers, you respect your boss, you'll get promoted. You sign up for college classes, you go to the class, you read the homework, you show up for lectures, you ask questions, you take the test, you're going to pass. Eventually you'll get your college degree. Entrepreneurship is not like that. You can do everything right for 25 years and still not make it. Although I would argue those 25 years you still made it. But living and thriving without the need to control something is a skill anyone hanging out their shingle needs to get with. And I think that the pandemic particularly, and then kind of what's happening right now in like global geopolitics, is showing us over and over again that there are no guarantees. There's no like, I promise you if you work hard and do this, you'll get a wife and 2.5 kids. Like it's just, we all know now that that is an illusion. So stop clinging to it is my advice.
And the big paradigm shift then is, okay, well, if we can stop thinking of using ChatGPT as cheating, number one, if we can stop weaving in this narrative that using ChatGPT is lesser, it's less than, it's not as good as original content. And, you know, all of these things are so nuanced as well, because I would argue that, you know, ChatGPT used properly, it is original content when it's brought together by you in a way and used in a way that I think ChatGPT is at its best used. If we can flip all of those scripts to, my God, what are the opportunities now for innovation? What is now possible for me in my business, my life, that wasn't possible before this? Because I'm now starting to see this. When this goes out, I'll have already launched the collective, my membership. And could I have birthed the collective in the time frame that I birthed it before AI? No, definitely not. Because there are tasks that I did using ChatGPT that sped up the process so much and without any compromise in terms of the content. And so I suppose that's what I want us to explore is what are the opportunities? What now exists for people that didn't exist before?
I love this question. And I love how you're able to distill where we've been and bring it to where we're going. Let's start with the idea that everybody wants a village, but nobody wants to be a villager. Everybody wants to extract
Can we say that again?
I wish I came up with this. I saw it on the TikToks.
Okay. Really? I love it.
It's resonated with me so hard. Everybody wants a village, but nobody wants to be a villager.
Oh, so true. In the marketing world, that is so freaking true.
That is ChatGPT right now. So we're talking about what are the opportunities. If you only want to extract, but you want to fiercely protect your own work and you refuse to feed the system, it will always only have the ingredients that it has been fed and the technology that it has. So as long as all of us are like, I only take, I do not give. ChatGPT or, again, any sort of AI is only going to be as good as the village allows it to be. Will the technology and the algorithm continue to improve at breakneck speed? Absolutely. The developers are focused on getting more members to pay the $200 pro fee as much as they can. But if our attitude is, I only take and I never give, we are really losing an opportunity. Yep. Could somebody on the other side of the world take the style of Rebecca Gunter and make website copy with it and reproduce it and essentially, air quotes, steal my idea, which by the way, in the zeitgeist, I don't think there are really too many original ideas, is, who's capturing and capitalizing on it.
Nothing new under the sun.
Exactly. If I do, though, open up the floodgates and say, my strategy is your strategy, my words are your words, my ideas are your ideas, eventually the quality of the soup gets better for everybody. So what opportunities do we have? The first one is to be generous. If you're using it, put back in on it. If this is your village, be a villager and add to the banks of it. I think that is an opportunity for us all to be better fed and not feel like this is just like nutrition-y and morally void technology that only lazy people use to fulfill and check their content boxes.
Yeah.
That's our first opportunity, in my opinion.
Before we go on to the next one, can I just add to that as well? Because I just could not agree with you more. And I think this spirit of generosity, it's something that entrepreneurs who are successful moving on from this moment must adopt that spirit. And I don't often say that because I don't want to be that prescriptive. I want to be do it your way and da-da-da-da-da. Honestly, I see there. I see where things are going. We have to start being more generous, more abundant in our spirit. We have to share more. We have to be more open, honest, transparent, real. All of the words that people use and then say, that's why I don't use ChatGPT because I want to be transparent, honest and real. No, use everything at your disposal and be honest and transparent and real and generous and give as much as you take. That is the only way people are going to rise to the top now, moving forward, I believe, because there are less differentiators. Coming up with a group coaching program that you think is the best thing since sliced bread is probably not that different to God knows how many other group coaching programs that are out there. The difference is you. The difference is going to be your attitude, your spirit of generosity, your incredible customer service, those are the only things that are going to make you stand out, because the actual content, the teaching stuff, nothing new under the sun. So we have to differentiate ourselves, right?
Full snaps all across the board.
Snaps for Jilly.
Snaps for Jilly. We're silly for Jilly. Fear is at the bottom of that.
Yes.
Do you really think you don't have enough ideas that are constantly coming out? Are you so afraid that someone is going to steal your ideas, steal your secret sauce, steal your formula, that you have to be extremely protective and stingy? I don't work for free. I'm not giving my time away. Those are all fear statements that you think your ideas are finite, that you think your special sauce is replicable, that you think your POV can be stolen on the internet and you'll never get it back. Like, what's her name in Ursula steals Ariel's voice?
Yeah.
That's not how it works. Take all my words and all my ideas. I have a cajillion more. Look at me using Jill in a word. A cajillion more. I have a cajillion more.
Cajillion, my favorite number.
This also brings us up to this other thing that came in our conversation last week, which is the difference aligned with the social revolutions we talked about in the beginning of this show of, first, show me what you can do. That's industrialism. What can you do? I can build a car. I can make a dress. I can blah, 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 blah. Show me what you can do. Then, in automation, that doesn't matter anymore. So now, show me what you know. What do you know? I have a master's degree, a PhD. I'm an expert. I'm a master coach. I'm this. I'm that. Well, guess what? The internet, word processors, and AI means that everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. I probably spent 2 years with a business coach that I was able to get that amount of business coaching and strategy in 2 days with ChatGPT. It is no longer show me what you know. Now, in my opinion, what we're emerging into is show me what you can see. Show me a vision. Show me my vision. Show me patterns. Show me trends. Show me curation. Show me how you can make me feel by seeing me. What can you see? And that cannot be gatekept or stolen. So be open. Be generous, because show me what you know doesn't matter anymore. What can you see?
People listening, please rewind, tap the little thing on your podcast player and do the little minus 10 seconds or whatever it is and do that, and then replay that probably around 5 times, because what Rebecca has just shared is so freaking fundamental of the change that's happening right now in terms of who is successful in building an sustainable and profitable business and who is stuck. Who is stuck spinning their wheels, creating more teaching content and do this thing and here's how I do this and here's how you can do this. People who are stuck in that. Now, I'm not saying there's no place for that content. There is absolutely a place for that content. But if you really want your business to be sustainable and profitable for the long term, if you want to stand out from other coaches in your niche, rewind, play that snippet back a few times and just let that sink in. What can you see? Absolutely fundamental. I know I'm being dramatic, but it's that fundamental. It's a really important point.
Well, let's put it down into a coaching analogy just to look at. And I'm making this up on the fly. But let's take a fitness coach. I'm just making it up. A fitness coach, A. Let's call Coach A Antoinette. Coach A Antoinette is leaning on what do I know? I went to school for kinesiology. I have a degree in physical therapy. I have a practice. So I know that I can help people build their fitness. And so I'm going to come at it with my content of like, here's a structure, prescribed daily structure for your day that involves how you eat, how you move, how you sleep, blah, blah, blah. Here's how to do a jumping jack. Start at a stand, put your feet on the ground, do your jumping jacks, etc. Here's how you do intermittent fasting, or how you macronutrients, or how you take a shake, whatever. Because here's the science behind it. When you do this, then blah, blah, blah happens. That's one kind of coach.
Information.
The more I educate you on how your body works, the more you'll be able to use it to your optimal desired state, etc. Now let's take Coach B. Let's call her Betty for funness. Betty can see the inner athlete inside you did not know was there. How does Betty bring that athlete out? By helping you see it too. That's the difference.
There you go. And here's the thing. We're not saying you only need one and not the other. We're not saying the information is irrelevant, but up until now, people have thought that marketing, because as coaches, we know that Betty is absolutely spot on. That's the coaching. That's what coaching is. But the problem is that what the marketing world doesn't understand is what us as coaches do understand. We have an advantage here, everyone. We have an advantage over some other business owners because we understand the importance of this already. The marketing world has been stuck in the information, the content marketing strategy of sharing information, right? And it's almost like they need to catch up with us as coaches. We understand this, but also we need to stop thinking of ourselves as purely marketers when we're doing our marketing work. Bring your coaching head into your marketing content and the way you speak on a live or on a podcast like this. Bring your marketing head to that. Don't just regurgitate content and don't just, or even think up original content to train out to people, to help them. It's not enough anymore.
That's a tool of fear. Fear is like the theme here. When you're scared, you lead with your resume. When you are not confident or you just really kind of don't know how to, quote, do marketing, the first thing we're going to do is lean on our resume. I have 20 years of experience helping executives and now I'm here to help you. I know how to reconcile bank accounts, manage your calendar, We're going to lead with our resume and saying, hey, as an executive coach, I'm going to free you from all the things that are holding you back from growth, because it takes a lot of moxie to lead with that kind of messaging. And we are scared to present ourselves that way online because we do not think people are going to take us seriously as we have grown up in show me what you know. But now I need coaches who are embracing content marketing to really talk a lot more about what you can see so that other people feel seen. Because I can get the information on how to manage my calendar. I can even train ChatGPT a little bit to do some of those tasks for me. So the value isn't in what you know, but we're afraid not to lead with our resume because to not give our resume feels like we're charlatans. If you listen to this podcast episode alone and think of it, I could have come to the mic right now and answered Jilly's first question and started to tell you how I create custom GPTs to get quality content. I would have told you all how I do it. First I do this, then I do that, then I do this, then I do that. And I'm happy to share that with anybody who wants to know. But we didn't talk about that one single time, because what's going to move you to change your attitude or your approach to AI isn't how to do it better. It's how to see it differently. So if you use this episode as a microcosm of that idea, think about it like that as you're sitting down to write your content. Am I leaning into my resume and what I know because I'm afraid to actually use my own voice? And if that's true, why and what's the fear there? And if you can mitigate and unravel the fear that you have around it, you can really begin to establish a reputation. That's what brand is. Brand is bringing your reputation to life in words, actions, and images. Who is your reputation? What are you known for? That's what to lead, not what you know. What you're known for versus what you know. Otherwise, it just becomes more noise, no matter how well you know it.
Thank you for sharing this. This has been such an insightful episode. I'm sitting here kind of thinking, oh my God, this is so... I want to go back and listen to this conversation, and I'm the one who's just had it with you. So, that's when you know you've just recorded a really good episode, right? I want to just pick up on that thread of the last thing you said and just remind people that, in the academy and in the collective, the membership, this is why we have an entire module on thought leadership, on around, what is your own thought leadership? What is your unique contribution to make? What are you going to be prolifically creative around? Where are you going to be courageously visible? And where are you going to be seen as a recognized authority because of that very steadfast thought leadership? That's what needs to be in place to help people see. That's what will do it. Rebecca, thank you so much. If people would like to explore with you a bit of the other stuff, so there is still a need for people who want to explore how they can actually use ChatGPT. And you mentioned building custom GPTs, which is incredible. And thanks to your inspiration, I've set one up for the collective and I'm in the process of building that out. And you are a very good teacher on how to do that. So if that has captivated someone's attention, how do they best reach out to you?
You are so delicious and kind. You can reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn at Rebecca Layton Gunter, RebeccaLaytonGunter, and kickstart a conversation. As always, my email is rebecca.gunter@stonedfruit.com, RebeccaGunter@stonedfruit.com. You can also visit us at the Stone Fruit Rollup, stonefruitrollup.tv, because there are 2 recent episodes where I screen share and build custom GPTs and really talk through how do I get better results. And the answer is discernment, which is also show me what you can see.
Amazing. If you want to find out all of the ways that Rebecca can help you, I would absolutely connect with her on LinkedIn and have either start a conversation with her, because there are so many ways in which Rebecca can help you with that foundational work around your brand that I talk about all the time. Lots of what I talk about, I have learnt from Rebecca. So please do check her out. I'm going to put all of the links that she's mentioned in the show notes, so that will make it easier. Also, if you haven't already checked out the collective, I would love you to check that out. It is our membership exclusively for coaches who are building their businesses. If you are a great coach and you know already that you get great results with your clients, this is the membership for you. I don't teach you anything about being a great coach. I just teach you how to grow a great business. So go to jillmokes.com/collective and all of the links will be in the show notes. Thank you so much for tuning in again this week. Rebecca, thank you so much for coming on.
Ooh, you just got me just all tingly for the collective.
Ooh, I know, right?
Be generous. Be a villager there, people. Be a villager.
Be a villager. Do you know, before we sign off, I really want to share and I know this is turning into a long episode, but I don't really care. It's my podcast, whatever. Get over it.
Yeah.
I want to share this story about when I was building out the collective. I had this thought of, I don't really want to make this available for people, because what if people join and then they don't stay and they've downloaded all this amazing content and they don't stick around? And I had to really catch myself. And I realized, you know what? One of my values is generosity. And so I realized the reason this wasn't feeling right was because it was so misaligned with what I value, with what matters to me. And the moment I saw that and got rid of that thought and just said, you know what? The people who are right for the collective are going to freaking love it. And they're going to be there for the long haul with me. And the people who don't, if they get a ton of value after signing up for a month, well, brilliant. They've just got a ton of value, right? The moment I just made that shift, everything felt right again. everything felt like it was what I was absolutely supposed to be doing.
That's what I'm talking about with that mindset shift. That is what I'm talking about. It is not eggs are too expensive. It's that I don't make enough money. For you, it is not that people will extract the information from this and therefore I will be poorer, because that's really the fear underneath it. It's if I can make way better coaches, the rising tide will lift all of those boats. And sometimes it's going to come back for me and sometimes it's not. But if I can make the world of coaching better, even one download at a time, then my work here is meaning for me. And that's what you can see.
Thank you. Very validating.
Wipes away tear.
Wipes away tear.
Holds heart and looks at you longingly.
Well, this has been a long episode. Thank you for sticking with us if you're here to the bitter end. And I'll see you again, same time, same place next week. Bye for now.
It's been an honor to be here. And I love you so much.
Thank you. Love you so much. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that getting our heads together this week has filled your mind with what's possible. If you love the show, would you do me a massive favour, please? Would you leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts? It would really help me put more heads together, reach more ears and expand more minds. Until next week, bye for now.